Welcome to Market TV. I am Dorian Flannan, and today we are diving into a topic that every business needs to master, and that is funding. Whether you are a startup gearing up for launch or an established enterprise planning to expand, funding is a crucial part of the journey. From grants and loans to equity funding and private business, we will guide you through the processes with expert insight and advice. Stay tuned as we break it all down and share invaluable tips you won't want to miss. To start, we will hear from the head of media at the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN, Mr. Moshood Lawal. His insights on funding are both educational and informative, a must-watch for every business owner. Let's take a look.
My name is Moshood Lawal. I'm the head corporate affairs unit of Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria.
All right, please walk us through the different funding process we have, the types of funding process.
Well, if you say types of funding process, I will just tell you this. We have different funding types, and each type has its own process. So depending on the kind of funding an MSME is looking for, that will determine the process it needs to follow.
Okay, now let's look at the types.
Okay.
First, and the process for each of those types.
Okay. Now, there is government funding available. There are funding from international development partners. There are funding from commercial banks. There are funding from microfinance bank. There are funding from international NGOs. And of course, there is funding from the local financial institutions, such as the SSU, AJO, and the rest of them. So depending on the funding that an MSME is thinking of assessing, it determines the process is going to follow.
Okay, so let's speak on the government's funding. What are the processes like?
Usually, annually, federal government has initiatives that it looks at in boosting the economic development of the country. And in order to push these initiatives, it releases funding apart from the regular one that are in separate budgets of government agencies. For instance, under the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, there was a 200 billion intervention fund that was released. In the previous government, there was a COVID intervention fund that was released, mostly to address some of the challenges MSMEs are facing. For the present government, the funds were divided into three categories. 50,000 was given to nano entrepreneurs. Nano entrepreneurs are those mom and pop shops, the akara seller, boli seller, the tomato seller, the vegetable seller, who we have actually done the research and found out that their funding need is usually around 20,000 to 30,000. They will go to market daily, buy their vegetable, come and sell, remove their profit, go back. So that 50,000 was adequate for them. It went that way. Then there were those that were given 1 million naira as MSMEs. This category of people need to now apply. They need to follow the following procedure. They need to show evidence of a TIN, their tax identification number. They need to show evidence of a banking relationship that over time they've been using a particular account and all of that. They need to actually show evidence that they have an association that can stand for them and be their guarantor and the rest of the thing. So for this second category, there is not going to be as easy as the nano entrepreneurs who got 50,000. Just by sitting down, they get an alert, and that category of 50,000 usually is called grant. Then it's 1 million is a loan. You are expected to pay back. So that's why they needed to do all these checks and be sure that you know what you're doing before that money will come to you. And of course, to verify that you're a small business owner. The last category are the manufacturers who actually require a larger amount of money because they're dealing with industries, machineries, and all of that things. For that category, they have about 75 billion earmarked for them to be able to access to boost their business and keep them in business over a period of time. So the processes, as I said earlier, are different. Now, the same thing applies in the commercial banks and microfinance banks. Commercial banks usually depend on the benchmark that is given to them by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So usually that determines what interest rate they could charge and how they could charge. The first thing they normally do is they need to do what they call KYC, know your customer. Then they need to actually be sure that you have done a banking relationship with them over a period of 6 months max, 3 months minimum, to be sure that you're not just coming to apply for a loan and taking off the next day. 3, in their KYC, they usually insist on having things like your last bill, your last light bill, water bill, to be sure of the location of that person that is applying for the loan. When the MSME goes through this process, it starts shouting that, wow, this their wala is too much and the rest of the day. That to them is a red flag. That means you don't have these things. For the microfinance bank, theirs is more flexible because they will usually relate with the micro entrepreneurs first. When they relate with them over a period of time, they will know your cash flow. Your cash flow is the money that is coming in and out of your business. So they will be able to determine that, okay, this person needs only 200,000. They won't allow it to go to 2 million. For them, it is easier because as at that time, there's a customer relationship officer that is attached to the person and the person collects it. The only disadvantage there, which we are frowning at, is microfinance banks usually charge interest per month. So ignorantly, you will find some microfinance bank will tell you ours is just 6%. 6% you will hear, you will think it's for the whole year, but before you know it, the MSME is already bonded by 6% per month. If you multiply it by 10 months, it's over its limit. And that's when you now normally have the non-performing loans rate rising higher among the microfinance banks. Our advice to small business owners is, as soon as you start the business, try and do what we call a formalization process. Even if it is a business name, go and register with CAC. Let the government have your particulars. Let them know that you are validly doing business in Nigeria. We have SME owners that are doing business for 20 years. They've never thought it wise to go and register their business with CAC or any government institution. So, administratively, they are not existent in Nigeria. So that alone removes a lot of our entrepreneurs from meeting the eligibility criteria for accessing loans, because present your CAC, they say, I don't even have it. 2, the tax is becoming a thing that has come to stay. So another thing they normally request them to show is their tax identification number or evidence of paying tax. You want to benefit from a loan facility, a grant facility from government, and you don't want to pay tax to that same government. So in the long run, you will actually have hurdles if you do not have evidence of your tax paying. 3rd, you over the time we've discovered that most of them do not keep records. Somebody is doing businesses very well, but if you find out he has never kept record on how his business is performing on paper in black and white. So when they want to actually give him money, he's required to have like 2 million, but because he doesn't have records, he will drop himself back to like 200,000 because there is no evidence of that business progressing over a period of time. They do not have that thing. Lastly, the issue of managerial capability. In true sense, most of MSMEs in Nigeria are becoming trial and error things. They do not want to have a management structure. My name is Moshood Lawal. I'm the executive director of my company. Who is the secretary? I am the secretary. Who is the head of finance? I am the head of finance. Who is the head of market? I am the head of. So that limits the growth of that business to a particular individual, whom whenever he falls sick, the business falls sick. God forbid, whatever happens to him, the business nosedives. So over time, the eligibility criteria is being tampered with to be able to accumulate or accommodate as many people as possible. What we are doing right now, we're trying to sensitize Nigerians to see the possibility of formalizing their business first in their own interest, not because they want to do it for anybody. Once they are able to do that, the chances are higher they will be able to get more. When a government sees that you have consistently paid tax over a period of time, you're a good customer. They will want to do business with you. When it is shown that you have a means of identity apart from yourself, it shows the business as a structure. When we see that you are not the only person running that business around yourself, you make yourself more qualified. Now, for the government's interventions, which I also want to delve into, we usually have this issue of people sharing forms. Then you now find one person filling 10 forms and the rest of the thing. So recently, the government has found a way of going across that. We have gone digital, the digital way. You need to now go online. Any of the government interventions you need to have. You need to have somebody who is digitally savvy to be able to apply online. Why are they doing this? It removes duplication. One of the questions you will likely be asked is TIN number, BVN number. Now, if you have opened an account, you have shown your BVN number, that BVN relates to all your accounts. So it will be able to show the government that this person is the same individual in different places. So government is now tilting towards digital processes. So if you find that most of the nano entrepreneurs, the market women, they're not able to access this digital listing, we also have ways of encouraging youths to go with just a laptop, help them do the registration online and the rest of the thing so that they will be able to access it. But for government, they needed to see a dashboard that shows that this is where you are and this is what you are doing. So basically, those are the eligibility criteria. Now, for the banking sector, it is at their prerogative. They are the ones that will determine this is a customer that is worthy of them. But for the government sector, there are other factors they normally look at. One, geopolitical zone. Once they are doing something, they will want to make sure that every part of Nigeria is covered. So you might be eligible, but maybe you have more applicants from your side than they want. Then it becomes an issue. Two, we are looking at gender affirmation. There's a component that is usually slated for women. So you actually find that, okay, they will now say, okay, let's allow women to dominate this sector. Let's see what we can do to support the women. So you find out that there is a slot for women. And lastly, there is a slot for youths, 18 to 35 years. They'll just tell you some of these things, you just find the eligibility criteria is 18 to 35 years. It cuts off anybody who is already doing business, but his age is above that. So these are criteria that if people know, they wouldn't bother themselves applying for something they will never qualify for. The truth is, for startups, there is currently a startup act that one of the government agencies has stimulated. And this startup act, if you go and read it very, very well, it gives opportunity for people who want to start their business and do not have the necessary wherewithal to do the business to be able to launch themselves into the space. But a minimal number of people are actually taking advantage of that, and that's a problem for some of these small businesses. But having said that, business ideas are bound everywhere, but starting the business sometimes requires you to get facility from family and friends, because usually funders are more interested in a business that has actually shown ability to start. You have withered a small stump than I don't have anything. All I have in my head is an idea and it has never been practiced. And you find out that they have lofty ideas, but do something. Now, if you do not have that, you should be able to extend equity. What we call equity is your own equity investment in that business. Either you are going to give your land, you are going to give your space, or that partnership requires you to be the one that will say, I'm going to drive this using the app I've developed or any of those things. So what we encourage people to do is try as much as possible. If you're a startup, try and see different windows for accessing funding or leverage on the Startup Act. That's one. Two, try and start thinking of equity. What equity can you bring on board? What are you bringing to the table? And three, see the possibility of announcing any of these franchise options. Somebody is already doing what you are doing. Meet the person so that you guys should work together and see how you can elevate what you are doing to a higher level.
All right, good. I know this was not part of our questions, but I'm going to ask you this. You know, the last day we had this crisis of fintech, issuing loan apps, trying to have it back, putting out faces, calling out names. What do you think of it? Do you think that would have been, or that's the best way to go to receive back the money we invested in these businesses?
Well, I only want to speak on behalf of those fintech companies, but I will tell them that they are also learning their lessons the hard way. Because you find that most banks will not give you a loan without doing a KYC. You know the person, you know where the person resides. Now, if you actually have the person's personal information and address, rather than put it all out there, go to the person, the last known address, and try and see how you can meet the person one-on-one. Because this can actually be an issue of litigation. But maybe they didn't get the necessary details. They just said, okay, we've given you, and the person either changes the number or changes one or two things. So in their desperation to recover such things, that's why they do some of those. It is not very, very professional. It is not what it should be, a last resort, but it's I think it's a lesson learned for those who give loan facilities out. But on the other hand, it's also a red flag to the real business owners, because if I've given 200,000 to 20 people and I'm not able to recover it, I'll label everybody in that same brush of strokes. So what we're talking about, negative image for Nigeria, because most of these things you find it on social media, is all over. So people that are coming to invest in Nigeria are actually seeing faces of Nigerians who have defaulted a Nigerian company. They just say, oh, let me keep my money. So the government also needs to come in and assist these fintechs to either recover or clamp on the defaulters. That's my own personal opinion. Well, I don't know. You see, the issue is, yes, I will say it the way you want to say it. Yes, funds and grants exist, and you don't have to know anybody if you have all the requirements that is needed. Now, what I will just advise them to do is, the principles of entrepreneurship says you should have perseverance, you should be resilient. If you apply anywhere and you were not given, print your application and go forward and meet them. I applied and I met all the criteria. Why was I not given? We easily give up. It's possible that somebody has swapped some of your information. It's possible you never got to the right place. But you just applied and say, no, it's a scam. They're not serious and the rest of the thing. You don't give up easily if you're an entrepreneur. You print, then you go to their office and say, okay, this is my application. In case of another application I want to do, what are the things I didn't meet? That way you will get more knowledge on some of the errors you must have done. They will tell you that they have no obligation to come and explain to you. But now that you have brought yourself to them, they must give you a reason why you are not funding. And they will now be careful that, oh, this is one Nigerian that knows his rights. And that's one. Then two, funny enough, Nigerians will not tell you they've done it. We're expecting success stories to be going online. People that have collected it, so that their family members will not collect part of the money. They will keep their mouth quiet, and when they are talking, they will say, I've never gotten no. So that is another factor for most Nigerian entrepreneurs that we hope will be able to change in the due course of time.